Hi, welcome back to my meat tutorial. I want to take a moment. I've already started the racking process. I was brilliant and managed to lose my video of it initiating it. However, what I wanted to show you is how it works. Basically, I have the fermenter that I showed you a couple days ago. I finished my primary fermentation, which means the most vigorous part's all done. What I'm doing now is I'm trying to get all the mead off of the lees, which is the dead yeast on the bottom. What I have is I have a racking cane. It's a rigid piece of plastic that goes down into the bottom of the bucket. I then siphon it off into the carboy I'm going to use as my secondary fermenter. Here it's going to ferment out a little bit. It's going to continue to ferment, but it's going to be a little bit cleaner because it's not on the lees anymore. It helps it clarify, it helps it just keep it cleaner. When I'm all done, it'll be a sparkling, pretty, really nice looking mead. I'll show you that process, but this is just kind of an intermediate step. I will probably do it again. But anything else I do with this mead, I'll go ahead and capture on video. After my first video I put out, it was suggested that I actually go through and show you everything that I do to it, rather than this is the beginning, this is the end, and now you don't really know what else is going on. There's not enough to really capture right here, but what I did want to do is take a couple more minutes of your time and show you basically some of the things I've learned to do as I brew. What I did early on was I got myself a nice little toolbox. Basically, I already had it, so I started using it for something else. I'm a bit of a social brewer. I like to brew with people. I like to brew in groups. I've done plenty of it on my own, but I do enjoy going out with other people. One of the things that happens the most is I'm always losing something, forgetting something, I don't have enough of something. So I started carrying around my toolbox. This, with all my equipment, is all I need to be able to brew. Things I keep in here are all the necessities when you're brewing. I've got things like extra airlocks. I've got measuring spoons. I've got chemicals that I need, like my Camden tablets that I use for sterilization. I've got my yeast energizer, which I need sometimes, to get the yeast going. I've got testing strips so I can test the water where I'm actually brewing if I haven't brought it myself. I carry extra parts for whatever my need might be. These right here are in particular to kegging, but this is basically where I keep all my stuff now. So it doesn't require a lot of things to brew, but you do need to have some gear. I keep extra bungs, just depending on what carboy I'm using, what bucket I'm using. I then also like to use a striker. I don't carry a lighter. Everybody else I've brewed with likes to carry a lighter, a nice long-necked lighter for getting their burners going and whatnot. But I love using a nice striker. They're cheap. You can refill the flint on them all the time. It's real cheap, but man, it puts out a good spark that'll get that stuff lit. And I always end up with a broken lighter that doesn't want to light. And this is always a good spark. I also early on got myself one of these nice little tire inflators. I don't know if you can really see it, but basically it holds a CO2 cartridge like this, one of the larger ones. I think this is a 12 gram. Not that it's really that important because you'll read it once you actually get one, if you get one. Anyway, it's the larger gram CO2 cartridges. They go inside here. There's a little connector that'll tie onto an inner tube, but basically what it does is it puts out CO2 gas. That CO2 gas I can use anywhere, even like right here. I can put a nice little blanket of CO2 on my beer, and they just come out like that. When it's done, you can throw them away. One of the other things I started doing was I started journaling. I have every concoction I've ever made since day one. There's specific information that I like to keep in here. Typically it's my brew date, it's my name, not my name, but the name of whatever it is I'm making. All the ingredients I use, directions on how I did it, and then closing remarks, basically what are the results that I ended up with. Do I have my specific gravity in here? Do I have my original gravity? Do I have dates of when I've done all this? Absolutely, it's all in here. Do I know what my final gravity is? Absolutely. In the front, I keep a nice table of contents so I can very easily find things. Something else I did was I started using annotation for, when you get medals or ribbons or whatever for it, I've marked it down here so I can go back to those fairly easily and then find out what it was I was doing and then figuring out if I want to change anything this time. So always keeping a good record is extremely helpful. At one time I did keep track of all my temperatures on a daily basis, and I found that to be extremely labor intensive and pointless for what I was trying to accomplish. I've got more chemical here. Then I keep things like my Spanish moss, or not my Spanish moss, my Irish moss. I keep things like my pH stabilizer for when I'm brewing. If I need to harden my water, I've got my calcium carbonate. I keep my hydrometer. I also keep a couple different bottle fillers, because like I said, this is kind of where I'm keeping everything. It doesn't require much. If I need any special tools like, screwdrivers, I have those in here too. And then I also have my bottle capper. Everything I need to basically be able to brew away from home. I found this come in handy really fast. Everybody I've ever taught to brew, I've shown them this, and typically they pick it up and they run with it because they realize how handy and helpful it is. But I just wanted to take a moment and show you what I do. It's one of the things that makes brewing a little bit more helpful for me. We're all looking for something new to learn. This is what I do. So, all right. Well, it appears my racking is completed already. So maybe I can show you what the lease looks like. Go ahead and pull this. And now that I'm done with it, I don't have to keep it as nice and clean. I'll just put that right there. I'll show you my lease. You can see in there, see all that nice cakey brown stuff? That's all yeast just sitting on the bottom. But it sure does smell good. Something I added recently to my equipment is a paintball bottle. And I'm actually using this now. Instead of that little tire pump, that's great for little things. I found over time it gets expensive. Each one of those cartridges costs a couple bucks. They burn out pretty quick. Really it's enough CO2 to fill a bicycle tire. So it's great for little quick jobs. I used it for quite a while. I use it on my kegs when I take them to parties or things like that. It's a great way to be able to keep pressure on those. But for the most part, it just got to be too much money. So now what I do is I take this, it's been converted because now I have a valve on it, an on-off valve, and I just use this now for putting any kind of CO2 blankets. It's really, really easy stuff to do. Try to keep the threads protected there, but I'll just put a little gas coming off there. And all I'm doing right now is just putting a CO2 blanket on this. So it's going to drive all the oxygen out and help keep it fresh, help keep it from oxidizing on me. So everything's pretty easy. It's all done. I'll just put this bung on with the airlock attached to it again, because basically we don't want that to start again. We don't want it to mix too much with air. And that's all I've got for you. So if you have any questions, you can always feel free to get in touch with me. Thank you. Bye.